My GF hated being a mom and got so jealous of our baby that she signed away her rights. She walked out on us both. I need to lay out a situation that has developed over the past couple of years. I'm Mark, 30 years old. About 3 years ago, I met Linda. She was 27 at the time, worked in graphic design, and had a way of making conversations easy and engaging. We clicked quickly. We both enjoyed hiking on weekends and trying new restaurants downtown. My job in financial analysis demands long hours, often extending into evenings and weekends, especially during reporting periods. Early on, I explained this to Linda. She mentioned her previous partner had been demanding of her time, and she appreciated my honesty. She often said she understood the nature of my work and had her own interests to keep her occupied. She would send me encouraging texts during late nights at the office or have dinner ready when I got home, even if it was past 9 p.m. Things moved fairly quickly. Within 6 months, we were spending most nights together, either at my apartment or hers. About 8 months into the relationship, Linda told me she was pregnant. It wasn't planned. We sat on my couch for a long time after she showed me the test. I looked over at her. She looked back at me. We decided to proceed with the pregnancy. Linda seemed to fixate on the idea of having a boy. She frequently talked about mothers and dances, teaching a son to play catch, and picked out several boy names she liked. I didn't have a preference for a boy or a girl. The idea of being a father was the main thing occupying my thoughts. During the mid-pregnancy ultrasound appointment, the technician announced it was a girl. I smiled and squeezed Linda's hand. She didn't squeeze back. On the drive home, she was quiet. When I asked if she was okay, she mentioned she just needed time to adjust her expectations. My sister, Donna, who has 2 children, later told me over the phone that disappointment over the baby's gender was common and usually faded. I took her word for it and tried to focus on preparing for the baby's arrival. We moved into a larger apartment together, closer to a park. I assembled the crib. Linda picked out paint colors for the nursery, although she delegated most of the setup tasks to me or her mother. Our daughter, Mia, was born 8 months ago. She's generally a calm baby. I continued working my usual schedule, maybe even longer hours sometimes, feeling the pressure to provide financially now more than ever. Linda decided to stop working and stay home with Mia. She initiated this conversation towards the end of her pregnancy, saying she wanted to be there for the baby's first year. I supported her decision, as my income was sufficient to cover our expenses. Since Mia's birth, I've noticed things that cause me unease. Because I'm often at the office until late, I miss a lot of Mia's day. I started asking Linda to send me pictures or short videos during the day, Mia in her swing, Mia during tummy time. Sometimes she would send them, but other times she would respond with texts asking why I only wanted pictures of the baby and not of her. On a few occasions, she sent a selfie of herself instead of a picture of Mia. A couple of months ago, on a Saturday afternoon, I was working from home. Mia had finally fallen asleep on the playmat in the living room after a fussy morning. Linda came over to the couch where I was sitting with my laptop. She sat close and put her hand on my leg, suggesting we go to the bedroom. I pointed towards Mia sleeping nearby and whispered that I wasn't comfortable with the baby right there, especially since she was a light sleeper and we didn't want to risk waking her. Linda stood up abruptly. She said, "Everything is always about the baby now," and walked into the bedroom, closing the door firmly. I stayed on the couch. Later that evening, things were tense. We ate dinner mostly in silence. There have been other instances. Last week, I was holding Mia, bouncing her gently, and remarked how quickly she seemed to be learning things, like grabbing for her toys. Linda, scrolling through her phone on the other end of the couch, looked up, rolled her eyes, and commented dryly, "I really don't see it." When my parents visited, my mother commented that Mia was a beautiful baby. Linda immediately added, "Well, I am beautiful, so that's why." She didn't smile when she said it. My sister Donna came over one Tuesday to help Linda while I had an important client meeting that ran late. When I got home, Donna took me aside in the kitchen. She mentioned that during the 4 hours she was there, Linda spent most of the time on her phone in the living room while Donna changed Mia, fed her a bottle, and played with her on the floor. Donna noted that Mia had started crying in her bassinet at one point, and Linda had just turned up the volume on her phone video before Donna went to pick the baby up. Thinking about Donna's comments and Linda's reactions, I searched online about mothers struggling after childbirth and read about postpartum depression. I tried to approach Linda carefully one evening. I mentioned that adjusting to parenthood was a huge change and that sometimes talking to a professional could help navigate it. I asked if she might consider speaking with a therapist, maybe even just for a few sessions. Linda's reaction was immediate. Her voice rose, and she asked if I was saying she was crazy or a bad mother. She stated she didn't need anyone telling her how to live her life or raise her child. The conversation ended there. I didn't bring it up again. I do try to spend time with Linda. When I get home, usually around 8 p.m., I'll spend about 15 minutes with Mia, holding her, maybe giving her the last bottle before bed. Then, Mia goes into her crib, and Linda and I have dinner together. We talk about our days. I often ask about Mia, what she did, if she learned anything new. Sometimes Linda gives detailed answers, other times she seems uninterested and shifts the conversation to celebrity gossip or things she saw online. I know I'm not home much. I leave before Mia wakes up most mornings and get back just before she goes to sleep. I feel like a visitor in my own home sometimes. I try to make weekends count, suggesting family outings to the park or zoo, but Linda often says she's too tired or prefers to stay in. When we do stay in, I usually end up playing with Mia while Linda watches TV or is on her tablet. We are still intimate, though less frequently than before Mia was born. The incident where I declined her advance because Mia was sleeping nearby was unusual. I rarely turn her down, but the specific circumstance of the baby sleeping right there made me uncomfortable. It's a personal boundary. 2 months ago, recognizing Linda seemed overwhelmed or perhaps bored, I suggested part-time daycare for Mia. I thought it might give Linda a break, maybe allow her to pursue hobbies or even part-time work if she wanted. I found a few well-regarded centers nearby and offered to tour them with her. She said she would think about it but hasn't mentioned it since. When I brought it up again last week, she waved her hand and said she hadn't had time to consider it. Our anniversary is next month. Before Mia was born, I had pictured proposing around this time. I even casually looked at rings online last year. Now, I find myself hesitating. The thought of Linda constantly feeling like she's in competition with our daughter is unsettling. I observe her interactions, or lack thereof, with Mia. I hear her comments. I am unsure what to do next. Am I contributing to this situation somehow without realizing it? I spend long hours at work, which means Linda handles the bulk of childcare day to day. Is her reaction stemming from exhaustion or resentment about the imbalance in parenting duties? Or is it something deeper? I also have a persistent worry. If this relationship ends, what happens to Mia? Linda is her mother, but her current behavior raises questions. Could I even get primary custody given my demanding job? These questions circle in my mind, especially late at night. Update 1. Following the advice and suggestions I received, I decided the best immediate step was to have a direct, uninterrupted conversation with Linda. I needed clarity on where she stood and how she felt, away from the daily routine and distractions at home. I asked my sister Donna if she could watch Mia for an evening, and she readily agreed. I booked a table at a quiet Italian restaurant downtown, one we used to go to when we first started dating. I told Linda I wanted to take her out for a nice dinner, just the two of us, to reconnect. She seemed agreeable, perhaps even a little surprised. We arrived at the restaurant, and the first hour felt almost normal. We talked about neutral topics, a new exhibit at the art museum she was interested in, updates on my current project at work, news about mutual acquaintances. The atmosphere was calm. I made a conscious effort to focus the conversation on her, asking about her interests, how she was really doing, trying to steer clear of baby talk initially. I mentioned how I appreciated her managing things at home while I was working so much. After the main course arrived, I gently steered the conversation toward our life together and the changes since Mia's arrival. I acknowledged that I knew I wasn't home as much as either of us would like and that the adjustment had been significant for both of us, but perhaps more so for her as the primary caregiver. I asked her directly how she was feeling about everything, about being a mother, about us. Linda was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in her glass. Then, she looked at me, and her expression was one I hadn't seen before. It wasn't anger or sadness, more like resignation. She told me she needed to be honest, brutally honest. She said she couldn't do it anymore. Not just the relationship with me, but being a mother. She explained that she felt overwhelmed constantly, that the connection she thought she would feel with Mia just wasn't there. She described feeling detached, sometimes even resentful, when Mia needed her. She admitted she often wished she could turn back time, before the pregnancy, before Mia. She said she knew she wasn't the mother Mia deserved. She also said she still had feelings for me, the me from before we were parents, but she knew I would always prioritize Mia, as I should, and she couldn't live with that dynamic. She felt like she was failing everyone, including herself. The rest of the dinner was quiet. I listened, trying to process what she was saying. I didn't argue or try to convince her otherwise at that moment. The finality in her voice was clear. We paid the bill and drove home in near silence. When we got back, Donna had put Mia to bed. Linda went straight to the bedroom and started packing a suitcase. She didn't pack everything, just clothes and essentials. She said she would arrange to get the rest of her things later. She didn't cry. She moved with a sense of purpose. By the next morning, while I was giving Mia her bottle, Linda walked out of the apartment with her bags. She paused at the door, looked back briefly, and then left. The apartment felt huge and empty after she closed the door. I held Mia, looking around the living room. The silence was heavy. My first call was to my parents. My mother booked a flight and arrived the next day to help. My second call was to find a family law attorney. I found one specializing in custody issues and scheduled an appointment for the following week. I needed to understand the legal landscape and how best to protect Mia's interests and establish my parental rights clearly, especially given Linda's stated feelings about motherhood. The shock of her departure and her words about Mia were still sinking in. Update 2. The weeks following Linda's departure were a blur of adjustments. My mom stayed for 3 weeks, which was an immense help. She assisted with Mia, allowing me some breathing room to sort out practical matters and meet with the lawyer. Dealing with the legal side became a primary focus. My attorney, Mr. Davis, was very methodical. He explained the processes involved in custody and parental rights. During our initial consultations, Mr. Davis contacted Linda's legal representative. It became clear very quickly that Linda was serious about distancing herself. Her lawyer communicated that Linda wished to relinquish her parental rights entirely. This wasn't something I had expected to happen so swiftly or definitively. Mr. Davis laid out the options and implications. If Linda terminated her rights, she would have no legal standing as Mia's mother, no rights to visitation, no say in decisions about Mia's upbringing, like schooling, healthcare, or relocation, but also no obligations, including financial support. The alternative was to establish a standard custody agreement where I would likely have primary physical custody given Linda's stated wishes and actions, but Linda would retain parental rights and potentially have visitation arrangements, along with an obligation to pay child support. Mr. Davis advised that pursuing child support might keep Linda legally tied to Mia and potentially complicate things down the line if Linda remained unwilling or unstable. He noted that forcing involvement could be detrimental to Mia. I spent a lot of time considering this. The idea of Linda not contributing financially felt wrong on principle. I thought about collecting child support and putting it aside for Mia's future. However, the primary concern was stability and minimizing potential future conflict or emotional distress for Mia. Hearing from Mr. Davis that enforcing child support payments could legally require maintaining Linda's parental rights, including potential visitation, solidified my decision. I instructed Mr. Davis to agree to Linda's request to terminate her parental rights, foregoing any claim for child support in exchange for a clean legal break. I wanted sole legal and physical custody to ensure I could make necessary decisions for Mia without needing consent or risking disputes from someone who explicitly stated she did not want to be involved. The legal process moved forward based on this agreement. There were forms to sign, statements to provide. Linda and I communicated only through our lawyers. Mr. Davis kept me informed at each step. He mentioned that Linda seemed cooperative in finalizing the termination quickly. Meanwhile, daily life shifted dramatically. I adjusted my work schedule, coordinating with my manager who was surprisingly understanding. I started leaving the office by 5:30 p.m. sharp most days to pick Mia up from the daycare I enrolled her in near my workplace. Evenings became a structured routine: pick-up, playtime, dinner, bath, story, bed. Then, chores, work emails, and preparation for the next day. It was exhausting, but the routine provided stability. My mom's presence initially, and then regular video calls with her and Donna, provided practical advice and moral support. The conversation about postpartum depression came up again with my sister and my mother. They gently asked if Linda might have been suffering from it. I recounted my attempt to suggest therapy and Linda's negative reaction. I acknowledged the possibility but also recognized that I couldn't force her to seek help. My responsibility now was Mia. Thoughts about the future began to take shape. My current job, despite my manager's flexibility, was still inherently demanding. The long hours culture hadn't changed. My boss, aware of my situation, mentioned an internal opening in our company's European division, based in Amsterdam. He highlighted that the work culture there generally emphasized a better work-life balance, with more predictable hours and generous family leave policies. The compensation package was comparable, and relocation assistance was included. The prospect of moving, starting fresh in a place known for being family-friendly, and having a job structure that allowed me to be a more present father, was appealing. It felt like a potential path forward, a way to build a different life for Mia and me. I started researching the possibility seriously, looking into neighborhoods, international schools, for the future, and the logistics of such a significant move. Update 3: It has been roughly 5 months since Linda left and about 2 months since the legal proceedings were finalized. Life has continued to move forward, bringing significant changes for Mia and me. The termination of Linda's parental rights went through as planned. We met briefly at the courthouse for the final signatures. It was a somber, formal process. Linda avoided eye contact for the most part. She signed the documents presented by her lawyer. Mr. Davis confirmed everything was in order from our side. As we were leaving, I spoke to Linda directly for a moment. I told her that while I accepted her decision, if Mia ever wanted to find her years down the line, I hoped Linda would be willing to meet her. She nodded slightly but didn't say anything. That was the last time I saw her. Mr. Davis later informed me that she had apparently left the city shortly after, reportedly traveling with a new partner. I decided to accept the job transfer to Amsterdam. The process of organizing the international move while juggling work and single parenthood was intense, but the potential benefits for Mia's upbringing kept me motivated. My company's relocation service handled many logistics, like finding an apartment and arranging shipping. My parents and Donna were supportive, though sad to see us move so far away. We made the move 6 weeks ago. The change has been positive. Our new apartment is in a family-oriented neighborhood with parks and canals nearby. My new role, while still challenging, adheres strictly to contracted hours. I leave work at 5 p.m. daily. This allows for relaxed evenings with Mia. We explore local parks, visit markets, and have established a comfortable routine. The work culture is noticeably different, with colleagues respecting family time. Mia is thriving. She just turned 1 year old last week. We had a small celebration with some new colleagues and their families whom I've started to get to know. Mia took her first independent steps shortly after we arrived here and is now toddling everywhere. She's babbling constantly and has adapted well to her new daycare, which is just a short bike ride from our apartment. Seeing her run towards me with open arms when I pick her up from daycare is a highlight I look forward to every day. Adjusting to life as a solo parent in a new country has its challenges. There are days I feel unsure, navigating parenting milestones or logistical hurdles alone. Language barriers pop up occasionally, though many people speak English. Building a new support network takes time. However, seeing Mia happy and developing well reinforces the choices made. I don't spend much time dwelling on the past or trying to dissect exactly what went wrong with Linda. Perhaps she truly wasn't prepared for motherhood, or maybe there were underlying issues I didn't see. My focus now is entirely on providing a stable, nurturing environment for Mia. I am not actively seeking a new relationship at this time. My priority is Mia and settling into our new life. If I meet someone compatible in the future, I am open to it, but it's not a goal. For now, it's just the two of us figuring things out day by day. Life isn't perfect, but Mia is happy and loved, and that's what matters most. I hope that if she ever does become curious about Linda, she understands the circumstances and knows her leaving was not a reflection on her own worth. Mia has me, her grandparents, her aunt, and she will always be deeply loved.